We all have our ups and downs, but what's it like to have extreme highs and lows? We're going to find out next on Jodie L.A. Welcome to Jodie L.A. Today we're going to talk about bipolar disorder, and my guest is Tony Precopio, and I want to welcome you to the show.
Thank you.
I asked you to come on the show because you have had this disorder, I believe, for about 25 years. Is that correct?
I was diagnosed in 1979, so what's that, 27 years ago. That's when I started therapy and medication. That's when I started on being on lithium, which at that time was the drug that really helped people deal with, actually the name of the disorder is bipolar affective disorder.
Okay.
And bipolar basically means that you go out, you go up into a manic cycle and you go down into a depressed cycle.
Well, for our audience that may be confused, because a lot of people use the word manic depressive, is manic depressive and bipolar disorder the same?
Well, when I first started out in '79, when I was diagnosed, I had a doctor at UCLA, basically saved my life. The term manic depressive was more common throughout the public, but I've noticed in the last 10 years or so that manic depressive is really sort of faded out, and people more use the term bipolar. They just say bipolar. But when I was first diagnosed, I was diagnosed as bipolar affective disorder.
So it's affective disorder.
Pardon me?
It's affective disorder.
Yeah, I'm not sure what that means exactly. It's just a medical term. But people don't realize that there's also something called unipolar affective disorder, which means people that go up to a manic cycle and then come back down to be level with their norm. And then some people go the other way, one way, and they get real depressed, then come back to there's some people that go, up or down, and they just go to the middle. They don't go, they go manic and then back to normal, or they go depressed and back to normal.
Well, let's start from the beginning. When did you have any idea that there was a problem?
Probably in the year 1978. I got really, really depressed, and I really started to get suicidal. And I had a real manic episode in 1977. I'm 56 right now, so I was 28 years old. And I had a real manic episode that I sort of went off the charts.
Really?
It lasted, most of my cycles or stages would go my depression would go sometimes for months at a time, anywhere from 6 months, 8 months, or a year, actually.
So this didn't start as a child?
When I look back now, I know that I had some disorder when I was in high school because I used to have very strange sleeping patterns, and that's sort of like indicative of someone that has a disorder. I mean, I started having really, really weird sleeping patterns. I'd go to sleep at 7 o'clock at night, I'd wake up in the middle of the night. I would say that's been really consistent for me over the years, really strange sleeping patterns. I have something called what I call truncated sleep, where I fall asleep at maybe 10 o'clock at night and wake up at 1 and then stay up till 4 or 5 in the morning. I mean, it's sometimes...
So you don't go to bed and get up the next day? It's not like a straight A?
It's not really, no. It's changed. I've gotten a lot better as I've gotten older.
Now, you're a graduate of Harvard, right?
Yeah.
So did you have this problem in college?
Yeah, that's when it started. It started when I was a sophomore. I got real depressed. Actually I had a high. My junior year I had a high, and it was I don't know what year it was, 1970 or something. I had a high in the fall, and then I sort of crashed. Usually if you have some significant event in your life, it'll sort of throw you off. For example, I was trying to get into a project to go to Mexico for a summer project, and I was really all excited about it, and I didn't get into it, so it really sort of threw me. Significant events will throw you.
So it throw you into, would that be considered a hypomanic episode?
No, I mean, when things don't go the way you want them to go, or you have trouble adapting to change, then then you go into a depressed cycle usually. That's what happened to me. I was real up, real excited about school, and then I didn't get what I wanted. I didn't get the project that I was supposed to be involved in, and then I crashed from there.
You just crashed.
Yeah.
I heard that also with bipolar disorder, you can be on a manic phase, sometimes to months, to years, and just stay high. And then you can drop all the way down and you could stay there.
Yeah, everyone's different. I don't know a lot. I mean, I know about myself, but I would say that some of my depressive cycles would last, like I said, 6, 8, 10 months.
So you'd stay depressed for that long?
Yeah, sometimes when I was younger, I think most of this starts when you're usually, especially with males, when you're in your late teens. And I used to have very, very long periods of time where I just sort of dropped out of sight, literally.
Really?
Yeah, I'd either drop out of sight, or like if I had a girlfriend, I went and lived with her for a while. I just disappeared for months at a time sometimes. And just got, until and I didn't know at that time what was going on with me. In fact, it took me 7 years to get through college because I had 2 different episodes that sort of threw me off. And actually, I was diagnosed. I was in therapy at Harvard Medical School with a very good psychiatrist. This was probably in the early 70s.
How do they diagnose someone like that? Is it through blood testing? Is it through talking to you?
Well, when I was diagnosed by my psychiatrist that I had for 21 years at UCLA, really I was diagnosed more by he could tell by various things like sleep patterns changing drastically, weight loss. There's all sorts of things that, the long periods of depression. I knew that the only reason why I went, this was in 1979, the only reason why I went to somebody finally is I had a really, really bad depression in 78, and I really got suicidal. I was going to jump off the Palisades. I know the exact spot in Santa Monica at the end of Ocean Avenue. I thought about that. There were 2 days that I was so...
Really?
Yeah, so depressed that I couldn't even go to work. I mean, that's how depressed I was.
And this is something that I believe that you will have all your life. They can keep it under control with drugs, but...
Well, yeah, it's been under control since I was diagnosed in 79, and I've been on medication since 79. The problem is that from 79 to 94, I was on lithium, which was the drug of choice usually. But in 1994, after a long period of time, lithium can have some effect on your cardiovascular system, and
Yes.
it did. And it was affecting my kidneys, and so he had to take me off that and put me on some other medications. And right now I'm on a whole bunch of medications.
So if you weren't on any medications at all, I gather you'd be a suicidal mess.
I don't know about that, but I can tell you that I take most of my medications in the morning, and then usually at midday, 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock. If I don't take my midday medications, I get real irritable most of the time, and I can tell at some point that I need to take my medications.
Really?
Yeah, it's your body gets, the other thing is your body gets used to the medications. It's really hard to, yeah, I would say I've been on medication since 79, and I don't know whether that's good or bad or whatever, but I don't think I would have made it this long without the medication. And yeah, you need to have, there's 2 things, you need the medication and you need the therapy. That's really how the condition starts. It's a combination of genes and the environment that you grew up in. For example,
So some of it is environmental.
Yeah. In my case, I got a lot of genes. I have my mother, my aunt, her brother, and my aunt are all bipolar.
Oh, they are?
Well, they were diagnosed by my psychiatrist. They weren't diagnosed. They were unlucky because they were from a former generation prior to the awareness. So, I mean, like my uncle who was bipolar, he died when he was 54, intestinal cancer. My mother died early too. She was 73.
Does that have anything to do with bipolar? I mean, do bipolar people die?
Well, yeah. I mean, what we came to the conclusion is not, you can't really, factualize it, is that my uncle, he sort of internalized everything, all of his frustrations, depressions, and it had some impact on him. He died at 54.
Wow.
He's really, really young. He got cancer, intestinal cancer, or whatever. He died really fast. He died like
that.
Like 6 to 8 months.
They claim that 2 million people in the United States are walking around with this disorder. A lot of people don't know they have it.
I guess, Yeah.
And so you're on medication, which has helped. They're saying that a lot of people use that electroconvulsive therapy, shock treatments, and they say 75% of the people that use that, they get great results. Have you ever had to do that?
No, I knew people when I first was diagnosed in, say, the early 80s. I knew some people that got shock treatments. I don't know if that's as popular as it used to be. I don't think so. I think that the medication and the therapy are the two significant things.
That is significant. I was reading that they only do this if nothing else works. It's
Right.
like the last resort.
Yeah, that was. I remember knowing somebody, and that they were really, really bad off, and they had reached the point where they didn't know what to do. The doctor gave them some shock treatments.
Did
But
it
that
help?
was in the early 80s. That was probably 20 years ago. So
Did it help them?
I don't remember really, quite frankly.
Yeah. I also read when you get into this hypomania, when you're like up, and that can make you irritable. It can make you sex crazed. It can make you, delusional. You can see things, you can hear things. Have you ever gone through that?
Oh yeah.
All of that?
1977, yeah. 1977, first of all, you get a whole burst of energy. You don't sleep that much. You usually get all sorts of thoughts and ideas that you're not focused, so they don't really stay with you. They don't. Usually, you just have all these crazy ideas. Usually, people go on buying binges. Mm-hmm. When I get romantic, I start to want to buy things.
Do you see things or hear things that don't exist?
No.
And how about sexually? Did you get sex crazed?
He gets sexually active. Yeah.
So
I've also noticed when I get onto manic stages, you sort of draw women to you.
Really?
The energy, yeah. It's very strange, yeah. Yeah, because I went off my lithium in 1994, and I had to because I had to make a transition, and the transition went on for like 4 or 5 months, and my doctor wanted to keep me high rather than low because
mm-hmm.
it's a better place to be high than low, and I actually got into a lot of trouble actually.
So you're better off depressed?
No, but I mean one of the things that happens is, along with everything else when you're manic, is that you really don't edit a lot of things. Your thoughts sort of become words instantaneously, and you say a lot of inappropriate things, and you do a lot of inappropriate things. You sort of get belligerent, you get you against the world, you get hostile, you get illusions of grandeur, like you can take on the world. I remember thinking, oh, I can, change the whole company I was in, and I could take everybody on, and
Mm-hmm.
you get it. And I got into a lot of trouble because eventually I got fired because of that.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah. Because you just sort of go off the charts, and that was for about February through June, I remember. It was about a 4 or 5 month period where I just got a little crazy,
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, that's when you're very manic. How do you get when you're very depressed?
Well, that was you get really inactive. You get you sleep a lot. Before I was on medication, I'd lose a lot of weight. I think I lost sometimes 60 pounds.
So you just lose your hunger?
You don't eat. It's your whole life experience just changes completely. I think I used to go from like 200 to 140.
Oh my gosh.
In a short period of time, and you sort of drop out from life. You just sort of you're not alive. You have no energy. You're real depressed. You don't want to. In my case, you just don't want to go out and see people. It's really hard for you to answer the phone, talk to people. It's really hard for you to go out into the world.
You just can't function, it sounds like.
Yeah, even the simple tasks such as bathing, or I have to say this. It's the simple tasks in life become just enormously difficult.
Now, do you go through that now?
No, but not to the extent. I recently actually I got a little bit depressed lately. It was in October this year. I got probably the most depressed I've gotten in a long time.
Did you think of suicide?
Yeah, I got a little suicidal. Yeah.
So what do you do when you feel like that? I hope you call your doctor.
It sort of passes. It's just these are feelings that come to you. I think everybody has those feelings. It's just if someone like myself or people that are bipolar, I think it comes a lot more often, or it's more exaggerated, or
Mm-hmm. I had a friend who was bipolar, but she was also hearing voices, seeing
Well,
things.
she might have been schizophrenic.
I
which
think
is,
she was. I think she had a combination.
Yeah, she's.
Yeah.
I think schizophrenia usually is delusional, and you hear voices and.
So what's the difference? Because I read with some manic depressiveness, or not, I should say bipolar disorder, that they claim that you can see things, that you can hear things that don't exist, but so do schizophrenics. So what's the difference?
I've never had that experience, so I really can't speak about that. I've never had.
You don't have that type of thing.
No, I would say when you get into a real manic state, you get real delusional about your power. You think you're the most powerful person around, and you think you can do all these superhuman things, which actually you can. I mean, one of the things that has been consistent for me my whole life is I've had an incredible amount of energy. You know, it's in a way, it's been, you know, a setback for me to be bipolar, but in the other way, I've been able to work long hours. It's sort of like a two-edged sword where you get some good things from it and some bad things. And
How about in a romantic relationship? Does it affect that at all?
yeah, I think that when you go manic, it's, yeah, either way it doesn't help. Because when I was on, what I learned of, you know, my marriage didn't go well. A lot of it had to do with the fact that I was on lithium, and lithium sort of blocks your feelings, blocks your libido. It does all sorts of things. And when I went off of lithium in '94, after being on it for 15 years, my whole body changed. I mean, my whole body chemistry, I could feel it. And one of the first reactions was that I felt that I could, for the first time in a long time, I could feel my feelings, if that's, you know, to be repetitive. But I could feel things. But it didn't. What I realized was it interfered with my sexual life with my wife, my ex-wife, and you know, and then it goes the other way too, where you get, you know, hypersexual or whatever you want to call it. So
You're saying
either way.
When you are bipolar, you lack feelings? Is that what you're saying? Is you don't feel things that are normal?
Well, I think the medication has a lot to do with that. I think that the medication does have effect on people. I know in my case, I didn't realize at the time when I was on lithium, but afterwards I realized that one of the reasons why I was having trouble performing sexually is because of the lithium. My feelings weren't really true. I knew that my feelings weren't true. They were sort of blocked by the medication. Mm-hmm. Everybody has a different reaction. You know, I think some people even have real negative reactions. Like people, like after that I couldn't take Prozac. I had a real negative reaction to Prozac. I know a lot of people take Prozac as a antidepressant. So.
Well, Prozac also, I know, causes sexual dysfunction. That does a lot of the Prozac family, which is Zoloft and
yeah,
a lot
I'm
of
on
those.
Zoloft now. I'm on a bunch of stuff.
Or Wellbutrin, if you take Wellbutrin.
I take Wellbutrin.
Or Desipramine, and you put it together. A lot of
Yeah.
times that helps any
Yeah.
sexual dysfunction.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, that would be a problem.
Well, you know, in retrospect, I realized that, and I'm not going to blame, you know, the medication or my condition, but a lot of the things, I would say, yeah, I have always had a problem with intimacy, which I think is a trait of me personally, but it certainly doesn't help you when you have, you know, the medication and the condition. It doesn't help because it's just, when you get real depressed, it's hard to get close to somebody. And
Are you talking about emotional intimacy or sexual or both?
Everything.
It's just hard for you to be intimate.
Yeah, but I mean, it doesn't help when you're, you know, in these,
Yeah.
you know, when you're manic or when you're depressed. When you're depressed, it's really hard for you to express yourself or to be open, or, you know, you sort of get, at least in my case, I think one of the characteristics of me personally, and it doesn't really necessarily have anything to do with the bipolar, is I'm withdrawn, you know. But I think I was thinking about that on the way over here, is that I'm withdrawn because I was very sensitive as a child and I needed to build up like a barrier or a hard shell to protect me. And that's really been something, I think you noticed that about me. I have to have this shell to protect me, otherwise I sort of...
Well, could this have something to do with being brought up in a home where your mother was bipolar?
I don't know, yeah. I mean,
I would think so.
Yeah, I think so, but I can't, yeah.
And what was your father?
As a child, yeah, I'm sure it had some grave impact because I was the eldest of 6 kids, and I had to watch her go through her mood swings, and she was never diagnosed properly. She never knew what was going on. She used to have, you know, large weight gains and losses, and, you know.
And how about your father? How did he handle that?
I don't know, you know.
So you don't remember that?
Well, no, I don't remember it. I think a lot of it happened before I was 5. I think a lot of that, you know, although later on I know that, she never could sleep at night, and she was always seemed to be awake, and she sort of needed her mother to help, with the family chores because she would go through depressions. And
So you have other brothers and sisters, right? Do any of them have this disorder?
No, to my
No.
knowledge, no. I have a cousin that's gone through this. At one point, I thought one of my brothers might have had this. He sort of went through some episodes, but he sort of, straightened out or whatever. He just had some bad experiences. But I have a cousin that just had a very similar sort of manic episode a few years ago.
Really?
Yeah, and I'm convinced that, and when I was in therapy for 20 years, and I still am in therapy, I'm convinced that one of the problems with me is I'm getting the genes from both sides of the family. It's maternal and paternal.
And paternal.
I'm pretty sure.
Are you in individual therapy or are you also in group therapy?
Individual. Well, yeah. I mean, most of my therapy was in the first 20 years. Right now, I see a psychiatrist regularly just to make sure I'm okay, regulate my medication and things like that. So.
Because like if you have a problem with intimacy or maybe being outgoing, I would think that maybe group therapy, sharing these things with people that have the same thing, might open you up even more. Not that I'm a therapist.
Well, I was in group. When I first was diagnosed years ago, 20 years ago, I was in group therapy for a while. It was very helpful.
Was it helpful?
Yeah, it was very helpful.
And how is your life now?
It's always a struggle still. It's not simple.
So it will always be a struggle, I bet.
Yeah, even with the medication and everything, it's still, it's still hard. You really are, you're coming from a different place. You're not, you go through life and you realize that you're just not like everybody else.
You don't see things like other people see it, probably.
No, I think you don't. I think there's you see things a lot from different perspectives than other people. Sometimes with me, some simple things in life are difficult, or I would say that a lot of, I sometimes procrastinate on things, and it has to do with my moods. If I'm really, really up on things and I feel good, then I'll get things accomplished. But if I'm not feeling really great, and again, my highs and lows are really regulated. I'm pretty smooth most of the time, but if I get a little down, I don't accomplish as much, or things just sort of pile up. And I've noticed that when I start to feel good, then I sort of plow through things that are in front of me.
But that sounds normal. I think we're all like that.
Yeah, but I think it's more exaggerated in my case. It's more exaggerated. It's just it seems to me that one of the problems is that maybe I'm using it as a crutch, but a lot of the things that are simple for other people still are difficult for me.
Really?
Yeah, like I would say, like we're talking about being intimate. I mean, I've gotten a lot better as I gotten older. I can relate to people, but I'm still sort of withdrawn, and I'm sort of introspective, and I spend a lot of time alone. So that's really indicative, I think, of the bipolar disorder. I think.
So you're not a real social person.
No, I don't think so. You could tell me, am I? I don't know. I'm not. No, I mean, no.
Well, you're just introverted.
Yeah, but I think that's part of being bipolar. It's part of but I think it's more my personality.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you can't blame that on the bipolar. That's just
No,
you.
I think that everybody, I've learned that I use an expression, we all define our own destiny. So I think that I'm a lot better now than I used to be. I mean, 20 years ago, there were a lot of things I couldn't handle. I think we've discussed some of them. I'm a lot better now. I'm much better with people now. I think in the business world, because I've encountered so many different things, that I'm more into people now than I've ever been, and I can interrelate with people. I've had to manage a lot of people in my job over the years. I've been a controller of many companies, so I've learned to manage people. You have to learn how to motivate them and things like that. So,
what would be some of the signs of somebody, since we have an audience, what would you say would be just some simple signs that someone should be aware of that they could be experiencing this disorder?
I've been told that if you have a lack of appetite and you're very sluggish and if you start sleeping a lot, I know when I was real depressed, I could rack up the time. I mean, you could sleep 12, 14 hours. You could sleep all the time, basically. I think those are two major things. If you have if you have a sudden weight loss or whatever, or it can go the other way. I think weight gain also.
But what you're talking about now is more very depressed.
Yeah.
But a bipolar person, they would probably feel what you're just saying, but then they would go into another stage at another time.
Yeah, and even now I feel it's really interesting to me because it's almost a natural phenomenon for me, because when it gets to be November and December, and I've talked about this with people, the darkness moves in on me. November and December are always difficult times for me.
Really?
Yeah, because there's a lack of light. And
You're sure it's not just the holiday blues?
No, no, it's the light. I'm real aware of it. And people actually, they actually have these special lamps that you can sit under or whatever.
Really?
Yeah, I forget what they're called, but I've thought about getting them. But now that I've always noticed when the spring comes along, I usually go the other way. It's sort of almost a biochemical thing.
Yeah.
Now that I feel more comfortable now it's January and I know the days are going to get longer and there's more light. It has a lot of impact. Yeah.
So
And most of my manic episodes are usually in the springtime. Yeah, there's a rhythm. There's a biorhythm to it. There really is. It's November and December. I just feel the darkness, coming in.
Yeah.
There was actually times. It's almost like being a hibernating bear.
Really?
Yeah, there were times when November and December I would sleep a lot.
Wow.
Yeah.
I read also that a lot of men that experience bipolar will commit suicide, where twice as many women will attempt it, but they don't. But I guess men get lower than women.
Well, I think that the most important thing that you have to do when you're bipolar is you got to take your medication religiously. And you
not get off of it.
Yeah, you got to. A lot of people just. Well, it's sort of like being an alcoholic. You have to acknowledge that there's an issue, there's a disorder, there's something wrong with you. But you gotta, at first, like I was in therapy for like 20 years, you gotta take the medication religiously, which I have. I don't think there's been maybe 1 or 2 days in like 27 years that I haven't taken my medication. I'm
Wow.
really, really, religious about it, and to use that word. And then you gotta have therapy. You can't just do the medication enough. And a lot of people have trouble with one or the other, and you got to have them both together. You got to work them both.
It works together.
Yeah, that's what really helped me. And I used to go weekly when I first started out, weekly for years, And you work on issues, and I was really lucky because I had a specialist that was specialized in bipolar and depression at UCLA. And I went to him for 21 years, and I was really lucky. I mean, if anybody saved my life, it would be him.
It would be him.
That's the way I would look at it,
Well, the secret is people have to get help. They can't just sit at home and, be in denial, which a lot of people are in denial with a lot of these type of things.
Yeah,
You know something? We're at the end of the show.
Oh.
I want to thank you.
Okay.
I think you've been very informative, and I think that a lot of people out there will have a more understanding of bipolar.
Okay.
So I want to thank everybody for watching Jodie L.A. Until next time, good night. That went fast.